Welcome to the show. I'm Nicoletta, and this is the podcast where we dive deep into movies, whether they're timeless classics or modern gems. If it made you feel something, we're talking about it.
Have you ever, stared at a blank page or maybe a really complex idea and just thought, how on earth do I make this work, for an audience?
Oh, definitely.
How do I take this abstract thing or a super dense book or even just something that happened in real life and turn it into a story people actually connect with?
Yeah.
A narrative that grabs them.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge for anyone trying to create, really, or communicate anything complex. It can feel, incredibly daunting sometimes.
It absolutely is. That specific moment, when you're grappling with an idea that feels almost resistant to being told in a straightforward way.
Right.
Like it's fighting you. It's that creative block that can feel just insurmountable. Doesn't matter if you're writing a novel, designing something, even just trying to explain a scientific concept to people.
Yeah, trying to simplify it without making it simplistic.
Exactly. The pressure to simplify without losing the depth and nuance, it's immense.
And that basically is the absolute core, the beating heart of the 2002 film Adaptation. Directed by Spike Jonze, written by the amazing Charlie Kaufman. This isn't just a movie.
Yeah.
It's a groundbreaking, totally meta film that explores exactly this challenge head on.
It really does.
It's this unique mix of comedy, drama, and kind of existential thinking, taking the agony of creation and making it into something compelling and honestly often hilarious.
And critics knew it right away. They saw it was something different, special.
It genuinely sort of redefined what a film could even be about.
Totally. It's a film that isn't just telling a story, it's actively pulling apart the very act of storytelling.
Right, like lifting the hood.
Yeah, laying bare all the anxieties, the compromises, the sometimes absurd demands of trying to make something creative. It's incredibly self-aware, a film brave enough to look inward.
We've gone through everything. Esteemed reviews from places like the New York Times, The Guardian, The Atlantic. There are more specialized film analysis from Senses of Cinema, Film Comment, plus, loads of popular movie review sites too.
A real deep dive into the reception.
Exactly. The goal is to give you a shortcut, to get you really well informed about why this film is so celebrated, what makes it genuinely unique, and how its ideas about creativity and authenticity still hit home even decades later. Let's start by jumping straight into the meta-narrative core of Adaptation.
Yeah.
Because it's a film that is, in so many ways, profoundly about itself, about its own creation.
Right off the bat, what's fascinating is how it presents its central conflict, which isn't just a conflict in the plot, it's the conflict of its own making.
Yeah.
It almost immediately says, hi, I'm a film about how impossible it was to make me.
Okay, let's unpack that. The film's premise.
Yeah.
It starts with what seems like Mission Impossible. Screenwriter Charlie Kaufman, played brilliantly by Nicolas Cage, he gets tasked with adapting Susan Orlean's nonfiction book, The Orchid Thief.
Okay, and this isn't just any book.
No. It's famously, notoriously hard to adapt, at least into a conventional movie. Many critics pointed this out. The book isn't, a neat story with a clear beginning, middle, end.
It's much more internal, meditative.
Exactly. It's more this sprawling exploration of Susan Orlean's personal journey into the world of orchid obsession. Her encounters with this really eccentric, kind of unclassifiable orchid poacher, John Laroche.
And her own thoughts on passion, longing.
Right. It's deeply introspective. It's not exactly a fast-paced thriller,
Not at all. And the film leans right into that, into the actual struggle that Charlie Kaufman, the real writer, had trying to adapt this exact book.
He genuinely couldn't figure it out.
Couldn't? How do you turn this thoughtful, character-focused narrative into something Hollywood wants? A marketable film.
So what did he do?
He did something brilliant.
Yeah.
He made his actual writer's block the main conflict, the driving force of the whole movie.
Wow.
So it's not just a character struggling on screen. It's this highly fictionalized, but also deeply personal portrayal of a real person's creative agony projected right there.
And the critics loved that audacity.
Oh, yeah. Consistently praised it. They saw it as, unprecedented, making a movie about the sheer inability to make that specific movie, a really profound act of self-reflection, artistic bravery, really.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, and maybe even more meta. The film introduces Charlie's fictional twin brother, Donald Kaufman, also played by Nicolas Cage.
Right.
This isn't just like a clever casting trick. It's this ingenious narrative device. Critics couldn't stop talking about Donald.
Absolutely. Because Donald is the perfect foil to Charlie, isn't he?
Completely.
He's shown as much simpler, much more commercially minded, just breezes through everything, while Charlie is tying himself in knots over the Orchid Thief, paralyzed by his need for originality, for depth. Donald's just like banging out this generic thriller called The Three.
And it's going to be a hit.
Yeah, he's going to screenwriting seminars, learning all the rules, having a great time doing it. And Cage plays both sides of this duality masterfully. It just embodies Charlie's internal conflict, right?
Definitely. Art versus commerce.
Artistic integrity, intellectual snobbery maybe, versus the massive pressure of Hollywood success. And if you think bigger picture, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does every artist have a sort of Donald inside?
The easier path.
Yeah, the path of least resistance, the commercial compromise. The film just gives that internal battle a physical form, makes it visible.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. And the self-referential stuff, it's not just a one-off joke. It's woven into the fabric of the film.
It's everywhere.
It constantly breaks the fourth wall, refers to its own creation. It folds in Charlie Kaufman's actual notes, his anxieties, his really personal insecurities, even his perceived failures, puts them right into the script.
It's like watching the film write itself in real time.
Yeah. The process becomes part of the product.
And there's that unforgettable scene, the one critics always mention, that captures this perfectly. Charlie goes to a screenwriting seminar, led by the real-life guru Robert McKee.
Played by Brian Cox. Intense.
Oh, incredibly intense. And Charlie is just squirming, struggling with McKee's rigid rules. You know, the hero must be active, escalating conflict, clear character arcs.
Things Charlie finds repellent.
He's intellectually disdainful, totally. But the irony is, the film itself, Adaptation, kind of seems to start following some of those rules later on.
Right, towards the end.
That level of self-awareness was just mind-blowing for many critics. It wasn't just a clever trick. This whole meta-narrative thing, it's central to the film's deeper commentary on storytelling itself, on authenticity, on the incredibly tough, sometimes soul-crushing journey of creation.
It's like it's having a conversation with the medium of film itself, participating and critiquing simultaneously.
Exactly.
So, okay, what does this mean for us watching it? It's like, how many layers deep can one movie go? Telling a story while also pulling apart how stories get told.
It's definitely not just playing with form for the sake of it.
No, it's a commentary on the forms, which is where the genius lies, I think. And this leads us perfectly into how adaptation really does break the rules. And yeah, sometimes feels like it's breaking down in the process with its completely unconventional structure.
Indeed. One of the film's boldest moves is how seamlessly it weaves together documented facts with purely fictional stuff.
All blend.
You've got the real Susan Orlean's journalistic work, the documented life and obsessions of the actual John Laroche, mixed right in with things that are totally made up, like the entire character of Donald.
Right. He never existed.
Never existed. And crucially, that whole dramatic, very Hollywood ending, that's pure invention. The film just dances on that line between real and fake the whole time.
And critics consistently praise that. Its daring approach to narrative, how it deliberately makes you question the nature of truth and invention in movies, in biography.
It makes you, the audience, work. You have to actively try and figure out what's real and what's made up.
But the lines get so blurry
that eventually the distinction almost doesn't matter for the film's core message, which is maybe the point.
Think about that incredible shift the film makes.
Yeah.
It starts as this thoughtful internal character study. Writer's block, human obsession.
Very Kaufman-esque.
Totally. And then in the last act, it suddenly morphs into this surprisingly conventional thriller.
Yeah. All of a sudden there's a car chase.
An alligator attack.
A shootout. Tidy resolutions for characters. It's wild.
And that dramatic, almost jarring shift, many critics saw that as this brilliant satirical commentary, a self-aware nod to Hollywood's demands.
It's such a clever move because the film begins as this deeply personal, almost unfilmable character piece, exactly what Charlie Kaufman wanted to write, right? And then by the end, it almost mocks itself by becoming the very thing he resisted, a formulaic action thriller.
It shows how powerful those commercial forces are.
Exactly. The irresistible pull of those conventions.
That paradox is just endlessly fascinating. The film starts out so sharp, so critical of formulaic screenwriting, lampooning the rules, the cliches. It ends up using some of those exact formulas itself. It's like a critique that consumes itself.
That's where the film's genius and its really wicked sense of humor just shines and makes fun of things like Save the Cat, moments,
Mm-hmm.
where the hero does something nice early on so you like them.
Right, manufactured sympathy.
Or forced dramatic tension, clear character arcs. And yet, it ultimately gives into them in its own ending, creating this amazing ironic paradox. That was a huge discussion point in reviews.
Does it end up validating the formula? Proving
Right.
it always wins?
Or does its self-awareness somehow lift it above just copying? Is it this defiant act that sneaks complexity past the Hollywood guards by playing their game?
Hmm.
What does that say about how inescapable certain story structures are? Even if you want to break free, it's like a brilliant Trojan horse smuggling its ideas inside a familiar package.
That's a fantastic question. And it really gets to the film's enduring power, its intellectual playfulness. It doesn't just show you the problem of formulas, it becomes the problem, then resolves it ironically.
Yeah.
Forces you to think about stories differently.
Yeah.
And holding all this together, all these layers of meta-narrative, self-satire are the characters. The performances are what ground this whole ambitious thing.
Absolutely. The performances are crucial. They make this really intricate structure, this meta-commentary, feel accessible, relatable, emotionally real. Without them, it could have just been, academic, too clever for its own good.
Let's talk about Charlie and Donald Kaufman first. That study in duality. Nicolas Cage's performances got huge critical acclaim,
Deservedly so.
playing both the neurotic,
Yeah.
self-loathing, intellectually tortured Charlie, always battling his demons, his creative paralysis, and his optimistic, simple, commercially driven twin, Donald.
Reviewers constantly pointed out how Cage made them feel like two completely different people. Believable, distinct, emotionally resonant. Even when they're on screen together, it doesn't feel like a gimmick.
It's amazing technically.
It is, but it's more than technique. He distinguishes Charlie with his posture, his stammer, his anxious face, that voice full of self-doubt.
Yeah.
Donald's more upright, confident, bigger smile speaks more directly. It's incredible nuance. Many critics called it one of Cage's absolute best performances. Showed his amazing range.
And like you said, the dual role isn't just technical skill. It visually, emotionally represents that core internal conflict and creativity, right?
Exactly. Ambition versus compromise. Purity versus marketability. It makes that abstract internal fight totally concrete, visible on screen, a masterclass.
And it's not just a performance choice. It really embodies the conflict. Charlie is that quintessential angst-ridden artist, desperate for originality, for depth, crushed by expectation, crippled by self-doubt, intellectual pretension.
He wants to avoid cliches so badly he writes himself into a corner.
Right. While Donald is the easy route, embraces the generic, finds success, seems happy doing it, no existential dread for Donald.
Duh.
And haven't we all faced that kind of choice in our own work, our lives maybe, between doing what feels right, authentic, challenging, and what seems easy or, guaranteed to work? It's that familiar internal debate.
Precisely. And if you zoom out, the brothers' dynamic is like a mini version of the whole film industry's constant dilemma, isn't it?
Art versus commerce again.
Yeah, played out in one family, even within one person's head, really. It lets us see and feel those opposing forces in a really human, relatable way. Personifies the struggle.
Okay, so beyond the Kaufmans, we have Susan Orlean and John Laroche. They're the source of the obsession that kicks the whole adaptation process off. Meryl Streep, playing the real-life writer Susan Orlean, also got huge praise.
Streep is phenomenal, as always.
She becomes totally immersed in this weird, secretive world of orchid collecting, poaching, and the totally enigmatic John Laroche.
Streep's performance was really lauded for capturing Orlean's arc. She starts with that journalistic detachment, precise clinical curiosity. Observing, but it slowly evolves into this deep fascination, ultimately maybe a dangerous obsession with her subject. Critics noted how Streep brought such depth, such vulnerability, showing that transformation from observer to, personally entangled participant.
You see it in her eyes, hear it in her voiceovers.
Yeah, the voiceovers start detached, analytical, but get much more emotional as she gets pulled into LaRoche's world. And her journey kind of mirrors Charlie's, doesn't it?
Oh, so?
Well, they both get consumed by their subjects. Charlie by the book itself, its form, its content, how to adapt it. Orlean by Laroche and his unique, compelling world.
Ah, I see.
It highlights how just observing something can change you, entangle you. The subject starts to transform the observer.
And then there's Chris Cooper. His Oscar-winning performance as John Laroche, eccentric, toothless, endlessly passionate, self-proclaimed genius. What a character.
Unforgettable character. Laroche is defined by these intense but fleeting obsessions. First orchids, then turtles, then who knows what next.
Finds total passion in these obscure things.
Manic passion, almost. Dedicates himself completely until the obsession just shifts. And Cooper brought this captivating manic energy, but also surprising pathos, made him totally memorable, fully deserved that Oscar.
He's charming and unpredictable.
And vulnerable underneath. Despite his weirdness, his questionable ethics sometimes, he resonates with that universal human need for connection, for purpose, for a driving passion.
Yeah.
His unpredictable, passionate nature captivates Susan Orlean in the story, and it captivates us watching. He embodies this raw, unbridled pursuit of passion, no matter how weird or brief it is.
Okay, so we have these three main arcs, Charlie, Susan, Laroche, and they're woven together really intricately. They don't just run parallel, they reflect each other, echo these central themes. Passion, obsession, adaptation, the search for meaning.
That's a really crucial point. Each character, in their own way, is trying to adapt to their circumstances, or maybe adapt a piece of the world to fit their understanding, their desire.
Charlie adapts the book.
Orlean adapts Laroche's life into her story.
Laroche adapts his life from one obsession to the next.
Exactly. It's this fascinating look at the human drive for purpose. Whatever path you choose, they're all trying to make sense of the chaos around them, often by bending it to their will, their obsession, or just finding meaning in the chase itself.
And that brings us nicely into digging through the thematic jungle of adaptation. Let's start with creativity, authenticity, the artistic struggle. The film dissects this stuff with brutal honesty.
It really does. It goes deep into the agony of creation, not just as a plot point, but as this painful, sometimes debilitating exploration of the creative mind. The film seems to suggest that real originality, it doesn't often come from some easy flash of inspiration.
No lightning bolts.
No. It comes from wrestling with deep personal demons, crippling self-doubt, having the courage to try unconventional things, even when they seem pointless or go against the grain.
And Charlie's inner monologue.
Oh, yeah. Delivered through voiceover. It just lays bare everything. His insecurities, his intellectual posing, his fear of being unoriginal, his self-sabotage. It's this incredibly raw portrait of the tormented creative mind. Critics found it deeply relatable.
It's like Kaufman exposed his own vulnerability for the art.
Exactly, making the process itself the story. Pain and all.
And through all these different pursuits, orchids, screenplays, life experiences, philosophical thoughts, the film explores that universal search for purpose, for passion, for belonging in this complicated world.
Yeah.
It makes you think, what drives you? To seek knowledge, chase a passion, make something new? Is the satisfaction in the final product? Or is it in the struggle, the messy process itself?
That's a key question the film raises implicitly. It subtly suggests meaning isn't always in the thing, the perfect script, the rare flower, the finished article.
But in the chase.
Yeah, in the intensity, the authenticity of the pursuit. Regardless of its perceived value or whether anyone else notices, Laroche finds meaning in his fleeting passions. Susan finds it in documenting them, understanding a world different from hers. Charlie finds it in trying to capture it all, even as he fails and flails.
It's the journey.
It's the journey, the active engagement with life and creativity that defines them, not necessarily getting to some neat, tidy destination.
Okay, another huge theme tied right into the creative process is that blurring of reality and fiction, what some critics call the real-fake idea. This film constantly makes you second-guess what you're seeing.
It deliberately, almost gleefully, blurs those lines between biographical fact stuff straight from Orlean's book, the real Laroche, and Kaufman's wild fictionalizations, like Donald, like that crazy Hollywood ending. Pure invention. Critics debated endlessly what was real and what wasn't, and many concluded the film's power comes from making that distinction kind of irrelevant.
It's a meta-commentary.
Exactly, on how subjective storytelling is, how subjective perception is, even memory. The very act of adapting a nonfiction book, which itself blended journalism with personal reflection, becomes a core theme.
Right.
The film shows how even truth gets adapted, molded, transformed by the storyteller, by the act of telling, maybe even just by our own minds processing it.
So it's constantly challenging you, the audience, making you question what you see, what you hear. You have to engage actively, not just consume passively.
You can't just sit back. You're forced to participate in building the meaning.
And that technique really reflects the bigger theme, doesn't it? About how we construct narratives in our own lives, how we adapt reality to make sense of it all.
It forces you to be a detective of truth within the film, but then shows you how slippery truth is in any narrative. It's a clever trick. Makes the audience complicit in exploring that reality-fiction divide.
Okay, and this leads us to the film's absolutely scathing but also incredibly funny satire of Hollywood commercialism.
Oh, yeah, doesn't hold back.
Takes sharp, hilarious jabs at those rigid screenwriting rules, the pressure from studios, focus groups, the demand for predictable, feel-good endings.
Donald's script for The Three. Simplistic, but it's going to be a hit. He writes it easily while Charlie agonizes.
Perfect contrast.
Donald's script follows every cliché. Clear hero, rising stakes, ticking clock, even a dead pet moment for cheap emotion. It just vividly highlights the absurdity, the compromises of the industry.
But the ultimate irony, the genius move,
As reviewers noted, is that the film itself, after all Charlie's intellectual suffering, resorts to action sequences, a conventional climax, clear resolutions,
car chase, alligator.
the satisfying wrap-up for the brothers. It's a masterful, self-aware critique, not just giving in.
It uses Hollywood's tools against itself.
Kind of. It's both a critique and an example of the thing it's critiquing. Proving, maybe, that even the most defiant artist has to speak the industry's language sometimes. Perhaps is that Trojan horse again to sneak in bigger ideas.
It really embodies that central tension running through the whole film. Can genuine, complex, unconventional art actually survive in a commercial industry driven by profit, by mass appeal?
Or is it just doomed to be adapted into something easier, more palatable, even if it loses its soul?
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is, does the film ultimately condemn Hollywood's influence or just kind of resign itself to it? Does it prove original ideas always get watered down? Or is it this defiant act of genius that plays the game and wins on its own terms? It's a question that hits home for anyone trying to keep their artistic integrity. Filmmaker, musician, anyone trying to get a nuanced idea across in a world that loves sound bites.
Definitely. And this brings us to the sheer craft behind all this madness. It's one thing to have a brilliant, complex script. Quite another to actually put it on screen effectively.
Yep.
Let's talk Spike Jonze. His direction, visualizing the seemingly unfilmable.
Spike Jonze. Well, he'd already worked with Kaufman on Being John Malkovich, which was just as unique.
Yeah.
So he was kind of uniquely positioned to translate this incredibly complex, abstract metascript into something cohesive, visually compelling. Critics consistently called his directions subtle but innovative, grounding all the surreal meta stuff in a fictional reality, especially inside Charlie's head.
He lets the complexity unfold without just overwhelming you.
Exactly. Reviews highlighted Jonze's skill there. For example, think about those suffocating close-ups on Charlie's anxious face when he's blocked. Mirrors his internal claustrophobia.
Yeah, you feel trapped with him.
And the editing in those early scenes is deliberately choppy, slow, reflecting his mental paralysis. Contrast that with the end in Florida. Fast cuts, action sequences, wider shots, dynamic handheld camera.
Totally different feel.
It's not just random shifts. They're crafted visual cues, guiding us through Charlie's emotional journey, his narrative transformation. The film's cinematic language actually changes as Charlie's story changes. It's brilliant control.
And that masterful handling of tone ensures the film stays captivating, thought-provoking, even with all the intellectual complexity. It makes it an experience, not just a story to follow.
It's a real tightrope walk, blending dark comedy, deep introspection, real drama, unexpected action into this coherent whole. Jonze pulls it off incredibly well.
And then, of course, the screenplay itself. Charlie Kaufman's script. A masterpiece of metafiction.
Absolutely. The critical acclaim for the screenplay was overwhelming, especially acknowledging that unprecedented boldness, making the writing process, his own struggles, the actual subject.
A script that writes itself into a corner and then finds a way out. Literally.
And winning the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, that was widely celebrated. Recognized its sheer inventiveness, how it pushed the boundaries of what a film story could even be. Critics called it one of the most original scripts ever. Not just clever, but deeply moving, insightful too.
It's pure Kaufman.
Testament to his unique voice, that deep self-awareness, philosophical questions, sad humor, and the willingness to just dissect his own creative mechanics right there on the page.
It constantly analyzes itself, comments on itself, subverts its own construction, a running commentary on storytelling tropes.
Which raises that interesting question, doesn't it? Does understanding the rules of narrative, seeing them deconstructed, does that enhance the experience? Or detract from the pure emotion of a story?
Good question.
What does it reveal about filmmaking's magic? That it can show you the trick, expose the illusion, but still hold you completely captivated. It shows a story can work on so many levels at once.
And all of this leads to the film's huge critical acclaim, its enduring legacy. Adaptation got rave reviews, consistently high scores on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, seen as one of the best films of its decade.
Yeah, the praise was almost universal, really effusive. And reviewers kept hitting the same points. The extraordinary layered performances from Cage, Streep, Cooper, Kaufman's unparalleled script, defying expectations, Jonze's skillful direction making the abstract feel real, and the film's profound themes that connected with artists and audiences alike.
It wasn't just liked, it was seen as important.
A significant artistic achievement challenged what cinema could do.
And beyond those initial reviews, Adaptation is always cited as a key example of meta-cinema. A film that really influenced later storytelling, opened up possibilities for narrative structure.
It absolutely opened doors for other creatives. You can see its influence in later films and shows that play with reality and fiction or deconstruct their own making. They invite the audience into the process, not just show them the finished thing.
It carved out its own space.
Definitely. It proved that even the most internal existential struggle, like writer's block, could be turned into dynamic, engaging cinema. Its impact echoes. Films now feel freer to play with form, with audience expectations, partly because Adaptation showed it could be done brilliantly.
So why does it still resonate so strongly, decades later? What are the profound lessons it teaches about creativity, authenticity, being human? Lessons other films maybe don't touch because they aren't so self-aware.
I think its enduring relevance comes down to the timelessness of that artistic struggle, that ongoing conversation about authenticity in our increasingly, mediated world, and the universal search for meaning in art, in life.
Yeah.
It reminds us that sometimes the struggle itself, the messy process of trying to make sense of something complex, trying to translate it, that's the most compelling story. It kind of celebrates the messiness of creation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's really clear Adaptation is so much more than just a movie. It's this profound, often hilarious, sometimes uncomfortably honest look at the creative process itself. A film that brilliantly turned its own writer's block into this captivating meta-narrative masterpiece, challenging us to rethink what stories are, how they're told, and why we're so drawn to them in the first place.
It's a film that really asks us to look inward at our own creative processes, our own relationship with authenticity, with what's real versus what we adapt for others, or even just for ourselves.
And it leaves us with a really fascinating, lingering question for you to think about. In a world where almost everything feels like an adaptation of something else, books, algorithms, memories, news stories, social media profiles, our own personal narratives, how do you find and hold on to authenticity? And what does it really mean to adapt your own experiences, your own ideas, even yourself? Not just for an audience, but for your own genuine understanding, your own purpose.
If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give it a like, and check out the next episode. We've got plenty more movie magic to dive into. Talk to you soon.